Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the night before paper two. I'm just going to give it a minute just to get a couple of people, a few more people arrived. We've got 6 of you at the minute, so I'm just going to let that number go up a little bit. Please go and grab your calculator if you haven't already got your calculator, because we're just going to check the settings of that. Actually, I better quickly get mine loaded. Just realised I haven't loaded mine. So get your calculator loaded. We'll check your settings on it and we'll be ready to go. I've got the chat open. You've got to be a subscriber in order to ask those questions. So just click that subscribe button, then you can ask any questions. I'm also going to be uploading paper 3 videos. I don't think I'm going to be able to do a night before paper 3. But there will be the option. I'll be putting some more videos on when we once I've seen the paper tomorrow and we've got some predicted topics. So please check back for those. Okay, and we'll be ready to go. Give it 30 more seconds. Hope your revision's been going well. I know it's getting to the point now where it's like a bit of exam burnout. I have had a couple of questions come through, a few things that people just wanted clarifying tonight. So I will have time to go over that. And if there's anything else, drop it in the chat. If you've got any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. Just loading up those questions. And we can, and I'll see what I can do to kind of help with them. Okay, right, let's get going then. So the night before paper 2, so let's get the second one out of the way, the second one done. Okay, the first thing that I want to check with you, please, is that you've got your calculator in the right mode. Obviously, if you're ACR, then it's not a calculator paper tomorrow, but AQA and Excel, you've got calculator paper tomorrow. Can you make sure, please, that it's a D, right? That you've got that D setting. If you haven't got degrees, you're going to be getting some questions wrong. You can just flip it to the back and reset if it's not D, or in your mode, make sure you're in degrees. If it's an R or a G, you're not quite going to be right. Okay, so just make sure you're in degrees. So that's the first one. Right, second tip, main tip is use your calculator. If you have a question that involves a percentage, simplifying a fraction or anything like that, just type it straight into your calculator to get the answer, okay? For example, say it's asking you to simplify 14 over 21. Your calculator will do that straight away. So that's the first one. Oh, right, second tip. I'm just turning that down because that's it. Right, so 14 over 21. Put it into your calculator. Press equals, and it's all there. Okay, it's all there straight away for you. Right, next then. Fractions, percentages, decimals, put it all into your calculator. Now, I just want to go through fractions and percentages of an amount, but I'm going to do that in a bit actually, but just make sure you're, let's just write that answer down there, which was 2/3, wasn't it? But also record what you're typing into your calculator. So we're going to go through some of those sorts of questions as well. Right, I thought one of the main useful things to kind of go over tonight is your formula sheet, the formula that you're given on your formula sheet and how we can use them to the best of our advantage, making sure we're aware that they're there. Now, I've got snippets here from the foundation one. It's also on the higher. The higher has a few more that I'm not going to go through tonight. It's got the cosine rule and the sine rule. I'm not going through those, but I am going to go through ones that are on both of them, okay? The first one is the perimeter area and volume, and I'm going to highlight volume because volume hasn't yet come up on either AQA or Excel, and it's one of those topics that we're highly predicting will come up tomorrow. So I'm going to go through all of them. So area of a trapezium is half A plus B times by the height. I'm just going to make sure you're aware of what that means because they've removed some of the diagrams that were there in previous years. So when we're talking about A and B, we're talking about the parallel sides. Okay, so A plus B would be adding together the parallel sides, multiplying it by a half, and then the height is the distance between them. That's the perpendicular height between them, not the slanted height, the perpendicular height, okay? You can then put those straight into your calculator in that format. So say A had a length of 2 centimeters, B had a length of 3 centimeters, and the height or the distance between them was 5. We can plug it straight into our calculator in the same format that it's been given as the equation. So a half multiplied by a plus b. In fact, a plus b, 2 plus 3. I think it will let me do it like this. Times by height, 5. No, it wants the multiplication signs in the middle. Okay, so we do need to put those multiplication signs in there to kind of make sure it's doing it. So a half, I was trying my luck there, wasn't I? Multiplied by 2 plus 3, multiplied by the height. Oops, just get that setting right. There we go, close the bracket, times by the height of 5. There we go. Okay, 25 over 2, 12.5 centimeters squared. Right, that's the first one. The next one, volume of a prism, is the area of the cross section times by the length. So this is the one, the volume that we're really expecting. So area of the cross section. So what is the cross section? The cross section is the shape that goes throughout the shapes. We're in a triangular prism. The cross section is going to be the triangle. So I would do the area of the triangle, area, and I would then multiply it by the length of that shape. Okay, so you'd need to know base times height divided by 2, which isn't given, okay? Base times height divided by 2. Equally, if it was a cylinder, so a circle was my cross-section, and I went back. Okay, my cross-section would be my circle, so I'd be doing pi r squared multiplied by the length. Okay, so make sure that's the volume of the prism. Area of that shape at the front, the cross-section multiplied by the length. Right, circumference of a circle, area of a circle. Circumference of a circle, now pi d tends to be the one that's remembered, but it's given to you, okay? Pi times by d. They're telling you that's also 2 times pi times r, because the diameter is equal to 2 times the radius, okay? And area of a circle, pi r squared. So make sure you know those formula are there for you to kind of use straight away. Ones that aren't used, on the last session we spoke about brain dumping. So literally as soon as you're in that exam and you're told that you can write, getting this down on the paper straight away, is the speed equals distance divided by time. That's a really good one. Because once again, it's another topic we're expecting to come at. Speed equals distance divided by time. And if you use your triangles, speed, distance, time, get that straight down, because you might feel you know it, but when you're in the middle of an exam question, you've got loads of parts to a question, you could make a mistake with that. Okay, right. Next part then. So the loved Pythagoras and trigonometry. So I've got the snippet that's there from your formula sheet as well. Right. Let's cover these then. So in any right angled triangle where A, B, and C are the length of the sides and C is the hypotenuse, okay, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So if A was 5 and B was 6, we would do A squared, so 5 squared plus 6 squared, and that would equal C squared. One thing to remember here, that's when you're trying to find the hypotenuse. We square them and add them together. So I'm just going to put that into my calculator. 5 squared plus 6 squared equals, so that's 61. So C squared equals 61. Remember to square root that 61 in order to get your value for C. So the square root of the 61 would give you your answer. To one decimal place, that is 7.8 centimeters. Right, how about though if we're trying to find one of the shorter sides and the other ones aren't given to you? So A and B refer to the shorter sides. Let's just make that really clear. A and B are the shorter sides. And they can be in any order. Doesn't matter which one you're giving the label to what. If you are trying to find one of the shorter sides, however, no longer are we adding them together, we have to subtract them. If it's a shorter side, we subtract. So the formula becomes C squared subtract A squared to get B squared. Okay, this hypotenuse squared subtract the shorter side you're given squared to get your other shorter side. So let's just do a question on that. If you're given the hypotenuse as 15, if you're given one of the shorter sides is 10, and you're trying to find this other shorter side here, we're doing 15 squared subtract 10 squared. We'll give you x squared. And remember to square root your answer afterwards. So 15 squared subtract 10 squared equals 125. Square root of 125. Okay, and I would want to write that all out. 125 equals x squared. X is the square root of 125, which equals 11.2 to 1 decimal place. There we go. Okay. Right, so that's Pythagoras. And remember, please, Pythagoras, look, it's involving 3 sides. The lowercase letters refer to the sides, so it's 3 sides. There we go. We're now moving on to trigonometry, okay? Trigonometry is 2 sides, 1 angle. 2 sides, 1 angle. And we can see that in the formula, look. Capital A for an angle and 2 sides. Capital for an angle and 2 sides. Capital for an angle and 2 sides. Out of all the students I've ever tutored or worked with, only 1 has ever used the formula sheet for this. Okay, I actually had a student in class as well decide to randomly use it, even though we've always used SOHCAHTOA. Today they was like, no, I'm okay. But we don't tend to use it. We tend to use SOHCAHTOA. Okay, so SOH, CAH, TOA, and now is not the time to randomly be changing away from that. So I'm going to go on SOHCAHTOA tonight. Okay, so in any right angle triangle ABC, where A, B, and C are the length of the sides and C is the hypotenuse, that is the point where they are talking about trigonometry, but we teach it as SOHCAHTOA. We have had discussions as teachers, actually, a few of us, as to why are we still so big on SOHCAHTOA when it's not given on the formula sheet. Maybe we should transfer, you know, to this other way. Anyway, though, that's not a discussion for now, is it? So if you've got a right angle triangle, let's say you're given an angle of 23 degrees, you're given a hypotenuse of 12 centimeters, and I want you to work out this side here. Okay, so let's go through finding a side and finding an angle just to kind of make sure that we are up to date with that. Step 1, label your sides. So we've got the opposite, hypotenuse, and adjacent. Hypotenuse, I'd always label first, always the one that's opposite the right angle, the longer side opposite the right angle. That's your H. Now, the one opposite the angle is called the opposite. We haven't got the opposite. We have got the adjacent. Adjacent means next to, it's next to that angle. Right, so highlight the sides that you are interested in. So we've got the hypotenuse, we're trying to find the adjacent. So we need a formula that has A and H in it for the adjacent and for the hypotenuse. Opposite and hypotenuse is no good, okay? We're not interested in the opposite. We haven't got the opposite. Adjacent and hypotenuse, look, there we go, A and H, that's the one we want to use. We couldn't use tan because, once again, opposite and adjacent hasn't got the hypotenuse. So that's how we're identifying our ratio. We're using the CAH for Ca. For goodness sake, make sure you're spelling those right as well when you're learning them. Now, I get students to write a times in between and a divide there, and we are trying to find the adjacent, so we're going to cover up the adjacent, okay? You'd be using your finger, and you're going to cover up the adjacent, and it tells you what to do to the other 2 numbers. We're multiplying them together. So the adjacent is equal to the cos or the cosine of the angle, which is 23. And then we're multiplying it by the hypotenuse, which is 12. If your computer's in the right if your, calculator is in degrees, you should now get the right answer for that, okay? So cos of 23 multiplied by 12. 11.04. So to 2 decimal places, 11.05. Question doesn't always state how many decimal places it wants you to do it to. If it doesn't, give it to 2. 2 or 1, don't just round it to an integer. If it does obviously ask you to round it to a certain degree of accuracy, make sure you do. Right, let's quickly cover then how we use it to find an angle. Let's choose a different ratio. So this time we're going to work with X is going to be our angle. That's the one we're trying to find. They may give that a symbol of theta, but don't be too alarmed of what they're calling it. So this time let's work with the opposite. We'll say that that is 11 centimeters and the adjacent is 8 centimeters. There we go. Okay. So step one, label your sides again. We've got the opposite and we've got the adjacent. So O and A. So which ratio uses O and A? It's going to be the tan ratio. Look, TOA. There we go. Times in the middle. Divide there. Okay, when you're trying to find an angle, it's always the letter, the S, C, or T. That's the part we're covering up. That's the part that refers to the angle. So let's cover that up. And it's telling us we need to do the opposite divided by the adjacent. Opposite divided by adjacent. So the tan of the angle, tan of X, is equal to the opposite divided by the adjacent. Doesn't hurt to write that out. Which equals 11 divided by 8. Whichever one is on the top, that's the one that needs to be on the top of the fraction. So 11, the opposite divided by 8 for the adjacent. Okay, right. So that will give us tan of X, but we want to know what the angle is. So whenever you're trying to find an angle, we do the inverse function. Okay, the inverse tan in this case, because it uses tan. So inverse tan of 11 over 8. So just be aware when we're trying to find an angle, we need to use either sine to the -1, cosine to the -1, or tan to the -1, depending on which two sides you're given. So into your calculator, we're inputting tan to the -1, the inverse tan, shift tan, inverse tan, there we go, of 11 over 8. There we go, 53.97 to 2 decimal places. 0.97 degrees to 2 decimal places. If you're getting a silly number, that's clearly not. So if you just typed the 11 over 8 without doing the tan to the -1, the inverse tan, you're getting an answer, look, of 1.375. You're never going to have a 1.375 angle. Okay, so think about this logically. Is my answer making sense? And obviously we have to do that throughout the paper. No matter the panic you're in, just try and think, is that answer making sense? Okay, let's move on then. Right, couple of questions of kind of key skills that I just want to go through. Goodness me, we're 20 minutes already. That's it goes quick for me. So key skills you can do but sometimes forget, and I want to cover fraction and percentages of amounts on a calculator. Now it's really easy. Just replace the of with a times. If you want 2/5 of £183.72, I don't know, you times it and type it straight into your calculator. 2/5 times by 183.72. Okay, use that times button to kind of work it out. If you wanted 40%, so 0.4 of £300, right, use that multiplication button, times them by each other to work out the answer. Right, can we just talk this formula that is also on your sheet for compound interest? Now, I don't think this one's too bad to use at all. I think this is quite a nice formula, and it can look confusing to look at it, but I just think it is worth going over it just to show you that it's not actually too bad at all. Compound interest, you're aware you're going to get a question that says something like £2,000 is invested and it is 3% compound interest over 5 years. And that is the formula that you'll see at the bottom of your formula sheet. So how do we use it? It's quite easy. It's quite nice to use. P is the principal amount. Principal amount stands for the original amount. Okay, P. R is the interest rate given, right? My interest rate is 3%. So that number's 3. And N is my number of years. The number of times that the interest is compounded, don't they put that nicely? Just means the number of times that you're getting that interest for. So in this case, it's 5 years. And you can then type that straight into your calculator. This, let's just go over this part in brackets to start with. Some of you there might be saying, well, 3% interest, it's going up by 3%. So that's 1.03. Okay, you might know that it's 1.03, but it doesn't hurt in the panic of it because some people put 1.3 because they're not thinking properly. So if I type in 1 plus, and then R is my interest, which is 3, put the fraction in just as it's showing, 3 over 100, and I'm hitting equals, right? 1.03 is doing it for us, okay, to the power of n, the number of years, and we multiply that by the principal amount. So that's a times there, isn't it? So it's the original. So I'd be typing into my calculator 2000, the original, multiplied by, if you know it's 1.03, you just type in 1.03, or you can check like this. 1 plus R is 3, that's my interest, over 100 to the n number of years to 5 years, okay, to kind of get your answer. Okay, so that's how we're using the compound interest formula on our formula sheet. Parts of a circle, let's just really quickly check on those. We've got a diameter, we've got a chord, so the chord goes across the circle, but doesn't knot through the center. We've got the radius. The radius doubled is the same as the diameter. We have a tangent. The tangent meets a radius at 90 degrees. And we have a circumference as well. Sorry, I knew there was something else I wanted to cover. I just couldn't remember what. So that's your circumference. And the circumference is almost like the perimeter of the circle, okay? Just remembering that that part there is called a segment. Okay. Right, in terms of time management, spend more times on your higher mark questions, working out, type into the calculator exactly what you're typing in, write down on your paper as well, please. Crossing out, do not cross something out and not replace it. Okay, don't cross something out and not replace it because you're just going to be losing marks that you might be getting something for. Okay, if you've got something to replace it with, then make sure you're crossing out what you don't want marked because they will not mark two answers. And the checklist, what is it asking? Have I shown my method? And does my answer make sense? Okay, because they are also crucial things as well. Okay, in the last few minutes, I would just like to get you to try a question, please, putting this into your calculator. I've had this one come through. Someone's asked me to have a quick go at it. Let me just make it bigger so I can actually see it. And this is a key using your calculator kind of question. If you're asked to work out the value of this, say the square root of 0.827 cubed added to 61.018 all over 32 cubed minus 1. Answers in the chat. Let's see what you get. Any answers that you get, I'd love to see, please. I think I'm watching the chat properly. Okay, I'm going to have a go. I'm going to see what I get and see if it's similar to you. So, perfect. Thank you so much. Let's have a look then. So 0.827 cubed Now make sure you've got the square root over the whole thing. So you have to press the square root button first. I'm then pressing the fraction button, okay? Make sure you move across to remove the cubed part now. We no longer want the power of. So plus 61.08, 0.018, sorry. And I'm dividing it by 32 cubed, move across, minus 1. Okay, 0.04335250816. Well done in the chat for getting that. That's brilliant. Now let's have a look. Write down all the figures on your calculator display. That's the first part of the question. So you would write all of that down. And the second part is give your answer to part A in standard form. Oh, I can't see the rest. It says correct to something. I don't know if that's correct to 2 decimal places or something. I'm not sure. So giving your answer in standard form, okay, would be 4.3. I think if it was 2 significant figures, be 4.3 times 10 to the negative 2. Okay, that's that one answered. Right, I'm not going to be able to, I think there was one more. Let's just see if I can get onto that. Let's have a look. Oh, yes, another really good question. Just one worth going through on error bounds, on error intervals. So you're told that a number h is rounded to 1 decimal place and the result is 3. So a number is rounded to 1 decimal place and the answer is 3. And they want the error interval. So write down the error interval. Oh, sorry. 4, we'll call the number x. And they might give you this. They might give you something like that with dot, 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 dot. Right, in this situation, what you do is you take your highlighter, I think it was called 3.0. You take your highlighter, you highlight what it's been rounded to, you highlight the number. Okay, you then do 1 decimal place more and 1 decimal place less. So 3 is our number. Do 1 decimal place, whatever you've highlighted, do that 1 more and 1 less. So 1 less than that would be 2.9. 1 decimal place less is 2.9. And 1 decimal place more is 3.1. We then are looking at the values in the middle. Oops, the values in the middle of those, okay? So what would be in between 2.9 and 3? It's going to be 2.95. And 3 and 3.1 is going to be 3.05. And then you can kind of write that's your answer. 2.95 greater than or equal to 2.95, but it's got to be less than 3.05. And this works for anything, okay? So if it's numbers rounded to the nearest 10, let's just quickly change up that question. Say it's rounded to the nearest 10, and the answer is 50. Okay, once again, highlight those two numbers. So highlight your 50, highlight your 10, and you're doing 10 more and 10 less. So our number's 50, 10 more, sorry, 10 less is 40, 10 more is going to be 60, and look at those values in the middle again. So it's going to be 45 and 55, 45 and 55, okay? So that's a tip to kind of help you think about how you're going to round them in the middle, okay? Yes, right. In the chat, you just rounded it to the nearest integer. So can I just quickly cover that one as well? Because it's such a common misconception. Let's just cover that one. So rounded to, a number is rounded to the nearest whole number. So let's call it the nearest integer. And the answer is 3. So nearest integer is whole number. So we go 1 whole number higher and 1 whole number less. I'm just going to shade that in. So we're starting with 3. We're doing 1 less is 2. 1 more is 4. Okay, and that would be then 2.5 and 3.5. Okay, so you can make sure that you're going to get that part right by following this method of adding 1 on and 1 less as to whatever degree that they're asking you to round it to. So nearest integer, add on an integer, take off an integer, and you want those halfway points, and it will just kind of help you make sure that you're in the right, you're rounding it to the right part, basically. Okay. Right, hopefully that's helped. I'm just going to remind you, a calm brain works better than a tired one. Please don't be up all night revising. I heard a few comments today of students leaving and saying it, pulling all nighter or something. Don't. You know more than you think you do, and just trust in the process of kind of the work that you've already put in, will help you. Okay, just keep your brain calm, try and get a good night's sleep, and see what and then you'll be refreshed and ready for the morning. Okay, I would definitely just I'd definitely relook over formula sheet parts just to make sure you're okay, with what those different parts mean. Right, good luck for tomorrow. As ever, please let me know how you got on, and I'll see you all soon. Bye bye. I'm just going to stay on for a second in case anyone's got any further questions. AQA higher most common topics. So the ones we're predicting and the ones I've kind of been working on a lot with my students, I've actually got a YouTube video exactly on that. Let me just get that loaded. So I'm just going to my profile. I've done a whole YouTube video based on those topics that I'm expecting to come up. Do you know it's not actually letting me load it because I'm on this? But check out on the thing. There's volume. Volume is a really high one. Angles is going to be a topic. I mean, we've in class we're going sine cosine rule. All of those sort of things. Make sure you're okay with compound interest. But check out the video, and I've got a video that goes through all of the AQA higher ones. Okay, thank you so much for watching then, and hope you have a lovely evening.